Randy Moss. Randy Moss wasn't just fast. He was otherworldly. Defenses knew what was coming and still couldn't stop it. His 2007 season with New England shattered records, with 23 touchdowns that still stand untouched. But the same season that made him immortal also broke him. The Patriots were one game from perfection when Eli Manning and David Tyree pulled off one of football's greatest miracles. Moss had the go-ahead score, the dream within reach, and then it vanished. Fans forget he never won a Super Bowl because his highlights felt like championships in themselves. Every deep ball felt inevitable. Every leap over double coverage felt scripted by destiny. Yet for all the dominance, the one thing he couldn't outrun was fate. Moss changed the sport forever, but the ring always stayed just out of reach. And one other legend knows that pain even better. Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders ran like a magician. Here 1 second, gone the next. He didn't just dodge tackles, he erased them. In 10 seasons, he rushed for over 15,000 yards, averaging almost 100 yards a game. Numbers that feel impossible even today. But greatness can't always overcome dysfunction, and Detroit proved it. The Lions gave him no real supporting cast, no dominant line, and no playoff hope. So he did the unthinkable. He walked away at his peak. No farewell, no countdown, just silence. He left fans stunned and the league emptier. Sanders wasn't beaten by defenders, he was worn down by losing. His story is brilliance trapped in a broken system, a player who could have rewritten every record if he'd only stayed. But that's what makes him unforgettable. He left the game before the game could break him. And for another defensive legend, that same theme of heartbreak hits even harder. Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith was a storm in shoulder pads, the NFL's all-time sack leader and the face of the Buffalo Bills' dynasty that almost was. 200 sacks, 4 straight Super Bowls, 0 rings, each trip ended the same, heartbreak. In Super Bowl 25, his safety gave Buffalo the lead, only for Scott Norwood's infamous miss to snatch it away. Washington, then Dallas, twice, followed with their own crushing blows. Smith's relentlessness made him terrifying, but even he couldn't carry a team past destiny's ceiling. He became the symbol of dominance without reward, of how cruelly close greatness can come without ever touching glory. Still, he walked away with respect few defenders ever earned, proof that numbers and legacy can outshine jewelry. But while Smith's story is about heartbreak, the next one is about what happens when even perfection isn't enough. Dan Marino. Dan Marino made quarterbacking look like a cheat code decades before Mahomes. In 1984, he threw for over 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns, when most teams couldn't even dream of half that. He had the arm, the swagger, and the stats to rule the league forever, and yet he never won it all. He reached the Super Bowl once in just his second season and never got back. Every year after, defenses adjusted, rosters shifted, and the window closed. Still, Marino refused to fade. By the time he retired, he owned nearly every passing record in existence. He became the standard every modern quarterback studied. His release was poetry. His vision was decades ahead of its time. But football doesn't reward beauty, it rewards rings. Marino had everything but that one piece of proof. And one receiver who came after him learned that same lesson in even more painful fashion. Calvin Johnson, Calvin Megatron. Johnson was a highlight reel disguised as a human. 6'5", faster than corners, stronger than linebackers, he made the impossible look routine. In 2012, he broke Jerry Rice's single-season record with nearly 2,000 receiving yards, and defenses still couldn't touch him. But greatness is lonely when your team can't keep up. Detroit wasted his prime with mediocrity and constant rebuilds. The losing piled up until even a player that unstoppable had enough. At 30 years old, still elite, he walked away. No injuries, no fade, just exhaustion. He left the game like he left defenders, in disbelief. Johnson could have rewritten every receiving record if the Lions had given him a chance at postseason glory. But instead, he became the modern face of wasted potential. Yet for one quarterback, that same feeling came 4 times in a row in the cruelest way possible. Jim Kelly was the leader of a revolution, the no-huddle K-gun offense that turned the Buffalo Bills into a juggernaut. From 1990 to 1993, they made 4 straight Super Bowls, something no team has ever done again, and they lost every single one. 1 wide right kick, 1 blowout, 2 beatdowns by Dallas. Kelly threw for over 35,000 yards, 5 Pro Bowls, and an MVP-level prime. Yet he'll always be remembered for heartbreak. But his story didn't end there. Off the field, Kelly battled illness with the same grit he showed on Sundays, becoming a symbol of resilience far beyond football. His legacy isn't the losses, it's the fight to keep coming back. Still, 4 Super Bowls without a ring leaves a sting that never fades, and one modern defender knows that feeling of dominance without reward all too well. J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt was a one-man demolition crew, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards in 4 seasons, 69 sacks over that stretch. He didn't just rush quarterbacks, he wrecked entire game plans. He swatted passes like a volleyball player, scored on offense, and carried Houston on his back. But for all that chaos, the Texans never gave him the stage he deserved. Playoff exits, injuries, and wasted potential defined his run. Even when he joined Arizona chasing a ring, the story stayed the same. Brilliant, brutal, but never crowned. Watt's career was a reminder that effort doesn't always meet outcome, that sometimes the best player on the field never gets the parade. His highlights will live forever, but the confetti never fell. And the next player on this list might have set the most untouchable record ever, yet still couldn't find his way to glory. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson looked like he was built to run in slow motion, except he wasn't. He was simply that smooth. With his upright stride, goggles, and impossible burst, he turned running the ball into an art form. In just his second season in 1984, he rushed for a record-breaking 2,105 yards, a number that's never been topped, not even with 17-game seasons. Defenders couldn't catch him, but fate caught up fast. In 1985, Dickerson ran into the Chicago Bears, maybe the best defense ever assembled, and his postseason dreams froze there. He bounced from the Rams to the Colts and others, chasing a team worthy of his talent, but the ring stayed out of reach. By the time he retired, Dickerson had become the fastest player ever to reach 10,000 yards and one of the most dominant runners the league has ever seen. But football doesn't hand out rings for style. It rewards timing, and timing was his only enemy. Alan Page. Alan Page wasn't just a defensive tackle, he was a genius in shoulder pads. The leader of the Purple People Eaters, he played defense with intellect and precision that made him unstoppable. In 1971, he made history by becoming the first defensive player to win the NFL MVP award, a feat that still feels impossible today. That season, his Minnesota Vikings defense suffocated opponents, allowing the fewest points in the league. Yet every Super Bowl run ended in heartbreak. 4 trips, 4 losses. The Vikings offense couldn't match the firepower of the defenses they faced, and Page's dominance was buried under missed chances. Still, his legacy extends beyond football. He later became a Minnesota Supreme Court justice, proving brilliance isn't confined to the field. But even in his second career, one thing never changed. Alan Page's mind always outworked the competition. And another football mind, this time on offense, faced a similar story of mastery without reward. Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez didn't just redefine the tight end position, he invented what we now think it should be. 17 seasons, over 1,300 catches, 15,000 yards. Those are wide receiver numbers, not tight end stats. He was durable, fearless, and impossibly consistent, missing only 2 games in his entire career. But the ring never came. 6 straight playoff losses haunted him until he finally won his first playoff game in 2013 with Atlanta, only to lose in the NFC Championship a week later. Gonzalez walked off the field knowing that was his last chance. Still, he became the blueprint for the modern greats. Kelsey, Kittle, Gronk, all chasing the standard he set. He proved that dominance doesn't always need validation from a trophy. And speaking of quarterbacks chasing validation, one scrambling legend from Minnesota spent his entire career trying to do the same. Fran Tarkenton. Fran Tarkenton was football's original escape artist, turning chaos into highlight reels before anyone called it improvisation. He ran in circles, made defenders dizzy, and fired darts downfield while on the move, decades before that became the norm. He retired as the NFL's all-time leader in completions, yards, and touchdowns, which is insane when you realize how physical the game was in his era. But for all his innovation, the Vikings still fell short. 3 Super Bowls, 3 losses, Tarkenton gave everything, but fate always took the final word. His style inspired generations of mobile quarterbacks, from Steve Young to Russell Wilson, yet he never got the storybook ending. Still, his name lives in football history as the man who made scrambling into strategy. And the next legend on this list didn't just redefine the position, he redefined representation itself. Warren Moon. Warren Moon's career was more than football. It was a statement. After being ignored by the NFL out of college, he dominated the Canadian Football League for 6 seasons, forcing the NFL to finally notice. When he arrived, he made up for lost time, throwing for nearly 50,000 yards and making 9 Pro Bowls. Moon's deep ball was pure poetry, a spiral that seemed to hang forever, but the postseason was never kind. His teams came close, but he never reached a conference championship. Yet his true victory was breaking barriers, becoming the first black quarterback inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His story is about more than wins or rings. It's about resilience, legacy, and changing what quarterbacks could look like. Still, it's wild that a player that good never even got a shot at the big game. But the next guy might be the most physically unstoppable wide receiver the league's ever seen, Deacon Jones. Deacon Jones didn't just sack quarterbacks. He invented the word sack. He described it as if he were devastating a city, and that's exactly what he did to offenses. The NFL didn't even record sacks during his prime, but historians credit him with 173.5 of them. Good enough to still rank among the all-time greats. He played like every snap was personal, using his signature head slap move to overwhelm linemen before the league banned it entirely. He was the face of the Rams' fearsome foursome and the most feared defender of his era. Yet for all his destruction, he never even reached a Super Bowl. It's one of football's great ironies. One of the most dominant players never got to dominate on the biggest stage. Deacon Jones left behind a legacy that shaped how defense is played to this day. And speaking of defenders built to intimidate, the next player might have been fear itself. Dick Butkus. Dick Butkus didn't just tackle, he hunted. The Chicago Bears linebacker played with a fury that felt supernatural. He earned 8 straight Pro Bowls, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and a reputation as the scariest man in football. Butkus treated every game like war. He hit with bad intentions, ripped out fumbles like they were his birthright, and stalked the middle of the field like a predator. Yet somehow, despite all his dominance, he never played a single playoff game. Not one. The Bears wasted his prime in mediocrity, and knee injuries eventually ended his career early. Still, his legend grew. The Butkus Award now goes to the nation's best linebacker, because no name better represents defensive violence turned into art. Butkus never needed jewelry to prove greatness. His legacy was fear, and while he played with rage, the next player chased glory with precision and perfection. LaDainian Tomlinson. LaDainian Tomlinson didn't just score touchdowns, he made it look effortless. In 2006, he rushed for over 1,800 yards and broke the single-season record with 31 total touchdowns, earning MVP honors and leading the Chargers to a 14-2 record. It felt like destiny, but destiny had other plans. New England came to town, and the Patriots ended that dream in one brutal playoff upset. Tomlinson never recovered that chance. Still, he finished with over 13,000 rushing yards, 162 total touchdowns, and a career full of highlights that defined the 2000s. He could run, catch, block, and lead, all without controversy, all with grace. LT remains one of the greatest pure players to never lift the Lombardi Trophy. His career is the perfect summary of everyone on this list. Greatness unmatched, glory unfinished. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.